Hello, my name is Joshua Cardenas, and as part of the Cotler Institute for Democracy, Human Rights, and Justice Fellowship, I will be conducting a workshop on balancing tech innovation and ethics in times of crisis response. Over the last decade, many crisis response organizations, including those dedicated to humanitarian aid, have digitized many of their systems, from registering refugees with biometric IDs to transporting cargo via drones. Emphasis on innovation and technology has become so prominent that there has been an influx of new departments and/or entire organizations focused solely on humanitarian technology. Although these innovative tools have helped deliver aid worldwide, it has also brought about new risks and questions regarding ethics. Here are a few examples of humanitarian aid innovation labs. In particular, I'm currently interning in Israel Aid's Innovation Information Impact Unit, in which I support the development, adaptation, and maintenance of the organization's innovation tools. Today, we will be covering several key topics. First, we will discuss the perceived advantages and disadvantages of technological advancements. Then we will explore key questions such as whether the benefits of tech innovation outweigh the risk, supported by examples highlighting the impacts of tech innovation. Next, we will address human rights considerations and examine how existing guidelines fall short in protecting human rights. Finally, we will review ethical principles and current guidelines and frameworks. So what are ethics or innovation in technology for that matter? For the purpose of this discussion, we will define following terms as such. Ethics refers to a set of principles, values, and standards that guide behavior, decision-making, and interactions within a particular context. Innovation, the way in which individuals or organizations solve problems and create change by introducing new solutions to existing problems. Technology, the application of scientific knowledge to the practical aims of human life. Technological or tech innovation, the creation, development, and implementation of new or significantly improved products, processes, services, or methods that bring about advancements in technology. Now that we have level set, let's examine some perceived advantages of tech innovation in the humanitarian aid realm. Firstly, tech innovation can significantly increase efficiency and coordination. For instance, the rapid response capabilities and streamlined operations enabled by drones and the utilization of AI, as well as biometrics, enhance the effectiveness of humanitarian efforts. Secondly, tech innovation enhances reach and impact. Remote access and real-time data collection, such as through telemedicine and map-based software like the World Food Programme's PRISM software. Lastly, improved communication is crucial advantage. The dissemination of critical information to affected populations is facilitated by tools such as the International Rescue Committee's Signpost software, which ensures that essential information reaches those in need promptly and accurately. One particular example of these advantages is the World Food Programs, or WFP, and the deployment of drones for the first time during Cyclone Idai in Mozambique, March 2019. Teaming up with Mozambique's National Institute of Disaster Management, the drones capture high-res imagery analyzed by AI to locate stranded people swiftly. This real-time data accelerated rescue operations, mapping accessible routes, and identifying damage. It facilitated strategic resource allocation for food, medical aid, and shelter. The drones generated maps aided in recording damage, directing immediate aid, and identifying high-risk zones for future disasters. Share with humanitarian partners, UN agencies, and governments. This data improved relief coordination overall. The use of drones and AI reduced manual analysis time, enhancing situational awareness and saving lives, showcasing their potential to revolutionize disaster relief efforts. We having done a quick review of some perceived advantages of tech innovation in the humanitarian aid field, we now have to ask ourselves, what are some disadvantages? For this, we look at another case study. In 2017, Rohingya refugees began fleeing Myanmar into Bangladesh due to a crackdown by the Myanmar military and action later deemed by the UN to be genocidal. Upon arrival in camps, they were compelled to register for various services, including a government-backed digital biometric identification card with no option to opt out. In 2001, Human Rights Watch accused international humanitarian agencies of improperly sharing collected information about Rohingya refugees with the Myanmar government without appropriate consent. This shared data included not only biometrics, but also details about family composition, relatives abroad, and places of origins, sparking fears of reprisals from the Myanmar government and driving some refugees into hiding. The targeted identification of persecuted groups has historically been a tactic of genocidal regimes. But now this digitalization of the data has exacerbated its accessibility, speed, and scalability. Human Rights Watch reports revealed that UNHCR shared personal information about Rohingya refugees with Bangladesh, which subsequently passed the data to Myanmar. Moreover, data collection receipts with check boxes for informed consents were only available in English, limiting understanding among Rohingya refugees. During the registration process, the Rohingya individuals expressed concerns about potential misuse of the collected data for involuntary repatriation. In late 2018, protests against the registration exercise were met with violence by Bangladesh camp's authorities. The incident represents a failure on multiple fronts: institutional, governance, and moral. Unfortunately, this incident is not an isolated one, as other cases of questionable humanitarian technology and digital practices, or lack thereof, have occurred in the field. These failures have sparked debates and concepts addressing the ethical challenges in today's humanitarian aid realm. Therefore, in exploring the challenges surrounding technological innovation and crisis response, we encounter 6 key concepts that underscore the complexities of this endeavor. Firstly, there's the issue of dependency and displacement of local knowledge. This involves the risk of relying too heavily on external solutions, such as technology, which could potentially lead to an overall aid dependency. Additionally, there's concerns that the implementation of new technological innovations may inadvertently neglect local customs and traditions, potentially displacing valuable indigenous knowledge. Moving on to accessibility and information, we confront the digital divide exacerbated by new technology. While some communities may benefit from technological advancements, others may be left behind, widening the gap between the haves and the have-nots. Furthermore, in regions with weak or non-existent infrastructure, over-reliance on technology and humanitarian efforts could result in failure if the infrastructure cannot support it. Privacy emerged as another critical concern. Weak or non-existent data privacy and consent mechanisms raise ethical dilemmas, especially when information is shared without consent or when data breaches occur. Addressing these dilemmas prompts questions about responsibility and how to remedy such situations. Technological barriers present further challenges. The complexity of technology may limit its utilization by certain groups, such as the young or elderly or those with disabilities. Moreover, the maintenance and sustainability of technology and aid programs require specific skills and training, potentially resulting in a gap in personnel with the necessary technical expertise, considering the associated costs and upkeep of them. The risk of misinformation is also significant. With the access to new technology comes the potential for the dissemination of false information, further compounded by biases that may influence the distribution of information. Lastly, privatization and traditional methodologies poses challenges to humanitarian efforts. The traditional top-down approach to implementing new innovations, often seen in the private sector, may influence humanitarian endeavors, potentially perpetuating inequalities and fostering technocolonialism. These 6 concepts collectively highlight the nuanced and multifaceted nature of integrating technology into humanitarian aid efforts, prompting critical reflection on the ethical, social, and practical implications of such endeavors. Overall, perceived advantages and disadvantages of tech innovation raises important questions about whether the benefits of technological advancements outweigh the associated risks. To explore this issue comprehensively, we must examine additional case studies that highlight various instances of tech innovation and their impacts. One case study is the fall of Afghanistan to the Taliban in August 2021, which significantly heightened concerns about the security and safety of individuals in the region. The Taliban's capture of sophisticated biometric data systems abandoned by Western powers and international organizations marked a perilous turn. These systems contains a wealth of personal and biometric information about Afghans, including iris scans, fingerprints, photographs, occupation, residences, and familial connections. Armed with this data, the Taliban can systematically target and oppress thousands of individuals perceived as adversaries, including former military personnel, judges, and those who collaborated with foreign entities. Investigations by Human Rights Watch reveal alarming instances of the Taliban exploiting biometric data to locate and detail individuals. One chilling account involves a former military commander held captive for nearly 2 weeks, subjected to intrusive fingerprinting and iris scanning, with his life hanging in the balance pending verification of his military background. Several crucial biometric data systems in Afghanistan, such as the e-Tazkira digital identities platform, the Afghan Biometric Identification System, or ABIS, and the beneficiary databases maintained by humanitarian agencies likely now reside under Taliban control. The e-Tazkira, funded by the US, EU, and World Bank, contains extensive personal details of millions of Afghans. ABIS, established to prevent Taliban infiltration into security ranks, holds vital biometric records of military personnel. Meanwhile, aid organizations like the World Food Program rely on beneficiary databases containing sensitive data of Afghan aid recipients. The absence of robust data protection laws and inadequate safeguards surrounding these biometric systems exacerbates the vulnerability of Afghans whose data now falls under Taliban jurisdiction. This dark reality underscores the urgent need for increased ethical scrutiny and protective measures in the development and operation of biometric data systems in humanitarian settings. It serves as a sombering reminder of the profound ethical dilemmas inherent in deploying technology in fragile contexts where mishandling of data can lead to severe human rights violations. In another case study of data privacy concerns during the Israel-Hamas conflict in October 2023, Israeli ministries sought to extend access to Israel's national biometric database, sparking worries about privacy and potential misuse. This database holds worries about privacy, holds fingerprints and facial images of about 7 million Israeli citizens and residents, initially intended for identification and anti-identity theft measures. However, amid the conflict with Hamas, the government proposed granting security agencies broader access to the database for an extended period. Since the conflict's onset, emergency regulations have been able to use the data from the biometric database to verify identities of victims, but the proposed extension of access to 1 year raises concerns about the database's security. While the government aims to enhance identification efforts for victims of terror attacks and military events, experts worry about the temporary wartime changes may become permanent, jeopardizing privacy rights. The proposal entails significant modifications to the database's operations, including granting law enforcement and security agencies access to biometric data for identifying verifications and retaining fingerprint records, previously excluded until emergency regulations expiration. Experts from the head of the Industrial Engineer Department at Tel Aviv University, Israel Democracy Institute, and the Movement for Digital Rights emphasize the importance of ensuring that an expanded access to database includes strict oversight and clear termination mechanisms. They argue that while the need for such measures may be present during a state of emergency, they should not lead to permanent changes that undermine privacy protections established when the database was created. Additionally, there are calls for a transparent assessment of the database's effectiveness and its current use, as well as appointment of an independent privacy and information security officer to oversee its utilization. This situation raises important ethical considerations regarding the balance between national security and individual privacy during times of conflict. As governments seek to enhance security measures, it is crucial to ensure that these efforts do not infringe upon fundamental rights and liberties. The extension of access to the biometric database highlights the need for robust oversight mechanisms and transparent policies to safeguard against potential misuse of sensitive personal data. Finding the right balance between security imperatives and privacy rights remains a complex and ongoing challenge in today's modern society. So the ethical challenges surrounding the use of technologies such as biometric data and digital identification systems in the crisis response operations raises significant concerns regarding the right to privacy enshrined in Article 12 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. No one shall be subjected to arbitrary interference with his privacy, family, home, or correspondence, nor attack upon his honor and reputation. Everyone has the right to the protection of the law against such interference or attacks. While not legally binding itself, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights inspired and paved the way for numerous binding international human rights treaties and national laws. Its principles are considered part of customary international law. In case of the Rohingya refugees, the lack of informed consent and proper data sharing with the Myanmar government and the potential for reprisal due to the identification of persecuted groups violate this fundamental human rights to privacy. The digitalization of personal data includes biometrics, family details, and places of origin, exacerbates the risk and consequences of any breaches or misuse. Similarly, the proposed extension of access to Israel's national biometric database during the conflict with Hamas, while intended for victim identification, raises concerns about arbitrary interference with privacy and the potential for permanent erosion of privacy protection. The retention of fingerprint data and involvement of multiple security agencies in accessing this sensitive information could lead to an overreach and lack of adequate oversight, contravening Article 12. The case of Afghanistan further underscores the grave dangers of biometric data falling into the wrong hands as the Taliban gained control over systems containing iris scans, fingerprints, photographs, and personal details of millions of Afghans. The lack of data protection laws amplifies the risk of exploitation and targeting of individuals based on this highly sensitive information. Moreover, the lack of specific privacy safeguards in international humanitarian law adds another layer of complexity. IHL rules were developed before the digital age and do not comprehensively address data protection needs in crisis response, such that of conflict situations. There is a legal gray area around the targeting of data content under the current IHL, leaving civilian privacy vulnerable. While human rights law could fill this gap, its applications to extraterritorial military operations remain contested. So what does this all mean? The reality is stark. A growing number of people face prolonged displacement due to natural disasters and escalating conflicts. Coupled with funding shortages, this compels humanitarian aid organizations to increasingly turn to innovative tools and technology to bridge the gap, making the humanitarian technology an inevitability. However, this rise in technological solution brings forth ethical challenges that cannot be overlooked. In response, many aid organizations have crafted frameworks and ethical guidelines to navigate the complexities of digital technology utilization. For instance, the International Committee of the Red Cross has dedicated chapters on chapters within its handbook on data protection and humanitarian actions to topics such like biometrics and consent. Yet the adoption of such framework remains voluntary, and ethical perspectives vary across organizations. The absence of a unified global data protection infrastructure for humanitarian technology poses significant issues. Most codes of ethics lack clarity on responsibility for unethical technology usage, remedial procedures, and appropriate repercussions. To ensure ethical tech innovation during this crisis response, it's essential to address several key themes that emerge from various frameworks, guides, and sources. These themes emphasize the integration of ethical principles into the design and deployment of technology systems, particularly in the humanitarian aid context. Transparency and accountability are foundational principles. Technology systems must be comprehensible to humans with clear explanations for decision-making process and data usage, while providers and decision makers need to be held accountable for their impacts, facilitated through regulations, audits, and partnership. Justice and fairness demands that technology systems be devoid of bias, with measures in place to assess and mitigate algorithmic bias and promote fairness through legal and policy frameworks. Responsibility necessitates meaningful human oversight and critical decisions and the proportionate and necessary use of interventions to avoid indiscriminate data collection or surveillance. Non-maleficence underscores the importance of avoiding harm, particularly to vulnerable populations, while privacy and data protection require robust measures to safeguard personal information while balancing transparency and privacy concerns. Benefits calls for technology to be leveraged for societal good, aligning with principles of humanitarian aid and sustainable development. Freedom and autonomy seeks to protect individual independence, especially in sensitive areas like social media and mental health data. Building trust is paramount, relying on transparency and accountability to ensure public acceptance and appropriate use of technology systems. Sustainability considerations dictate responsible management to mitigate societal and environmental impacts, upholding human dignity entails respecting local cultures and involving affected populations in technology deployment, while solidarity emphasizes collaborative efforts to support communities through technology intervention. Operationalizing these principles requires a binding policy commitment to human rights, supported by appropriate management and oversight structures, as well as the transition to technical standards and tools to mitigate human rights risks at every stage of the tech life cycle. So the aforementioned principles discussed are embodied in the Human Rights Watch recommendations for the Rohingya refugees and Afghanistan crises. Upon upholding human rights, especially as outlined in Article 12 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which guards against arbitrary interference with privacy, family, home, or correspondence, is crucial during moments of crisis. It's imperative to adhere to a set of ethical principles and recommendations, which include various key aspects. First, there's the necessity and proportionality of data collection, emphasizing that data, including biometrics, should only be collected when truly needed in appropriate amounts. Consent and transparency are equally vital, requiring detailed discussions to ensure individual understands the risk and have the freedom to opt out without facing repercussions. It's essential to inform individuals clearly about the purpose of the data collection and any potential sharing of their data. Maintaining a strict separation between different purposes of data collection is also crucial, distinguishing between the data collected for providing service or identification and data collected for reparation purposes. Additionally, data sharing should only occur with the explicit consent of individuals who should have the right to withdraw consent at any time. Robust data protection measures, include the limitations of access and mandatory impact assessment, are necessary to safeguard collected data from misuse or unauthorized access. Donors and international organizations play a critical role ensuring that data practices are right-based and subject to rigorous assessments and audits. Particularly in conflict or fragile settings, best practices should be developed for data destruction and limiting collection based on necessity and proportionality. Before implementing biometric systems in conflict zones through human rights and data protection impact assessments should be conducted with full transparency about risks and security measures in place. Partnership with the private sector should include clear commitment to privacy rights. By adhering to these ethical principles and recommendations, technology stakeholders can ensure responsible and ethical use of technology during crises, thereby safeguarding human rights and promoting the well-being of all individuals involved. In considering the interplay between technological innovation and crisis response, it's essential to weigh both the perceived advantages and disadvantages, which we did earlier. This evaluation prompts important questions about whether the benefits of technological advancements outweigh the associated risks. We explored this issue comprehensively through the case studies that highlight various instances of tech innovation and their impacts. Data collection and identification undeniably plays a crucial role in delivering aid. However, technological innovation in the humanitarian aid field is relatively new both in practice and literature. Publications on this subject did not emerge until 2009, making humanitarian innovation literature around a century younger than the overall innovation management field. Consequently, more research is required to recognize and unravel the complex motivations and practices of aid organizations, as well as to understand the diverse experiences and perspectives of aid recipients regarding data and technology. Only then can humanitarian organizations develop methodologies that balance the benefits of technology such as digital identity systems like biometrics against the risks to fundamental rights, which can potentially lead to physical harm. Moreover, a thorough examination of the ethical principles embedded in existing guidelines, frameworks, and international laws is crucial. By scrutinizing how these guidelines aim to manage the ethical implications of tech innovation, we can identify areas where they fall short, particularly concerning human rights. This scrutiny will reveal the gaps in current frameworks and underscore the need for more robust measures to ensure that technological processes do not compromise fundamental human rights. In essence, critically assessing both the benefits and risks of technological innovation and crisis response is imperative. Through empirical evidence, ethical reflection, and a steadfast commitment to human rights, we can navigate the complexities of this evolving landscape. By doing so, we can harness technology to enhance global humanitarian efforts while vigilantly minimizing potential harms. Thank you.